At dawn on August 18, 1965, two US Marine battalions landed on the Tuong Peninsula in South Vietnam. One would land by sea and one by helicopter. That day they would fight bitter battles through dense vegetation, rice paddies and fortified villages. This is the story of Operation STARLITE. This channel's mission is to challenge the Vietnam orthodoxy. Much of what you know about the Vietnam War is either incomplete or false. To support this channel and its mission, please subscribe and like the video. 1st Viet Cong Bazaar Regiment. In August 1965, the 1st Viet Cong Regiment was a veteran main force unit. It consisted of the 40th, 60th and 90th Battalions and had recently been reinforced with the 45th Weapons Battalion. Part of the Bazaar campaign, the regiments had overrun the 1st Battalion, 51st Arvan Regiment in May at the village of Bazaar, 20 miles south of Chu Lai, and 5 weeks later it attacked the battalion again, reducing its strength from 257 men to 40, earning itself the title the Bazaar Regiment. But the regiment had also suffered heavy losses, and in early August it began moving north toward Chu Lai to rest and refit, movement that was reported to 3rd Marine Amphibious Force. Walt goes on the offensive. In response to pressure from General Westmoreland, Major General Walt, 3rd MAF Commander, revised instructions that had restricted 3rd MAF to limited offensive operations, and on August 6th he received permission from Westmoreland to begin large offensives against the Communists. 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines had been patrolling the Tuong Peninsula 10 miles south of Chu Lai and the Cha Bom River since July. It was an area of dense vegetation with open rice paddies providing the few open fields of fire, and the rice paddies were divided by 6 to 8 feet high hedgerows of bamboo thickets and hardwood trees. There were many small villages in the area, including Van Tuong, which was located in the centre of the peninsula. The Viet Cong had fortified most of the villages with bunkers, tunnels, booby traps and hut walls that could be quickly lowered, providing machine guns with clear, pre-arranged fields of fire. The Marines consistently made significant enemy contact in the peninsula, and during August the Communists encountered were no longer black pyjama-clad guerrillas, but were dressed in khaki and equipped with AK-47 assault rifles and Russian-made rocket launchers. On August 15th, two major pieces of intelligence were received. A deserter from the 40th Battalion stated that the 1st Regiment was preparing to attack the Marine base at Chu Lai, and Signals Intelligence confirmed its presence on the Tuong Peninsula. By that night, Walt had decided that rather than wait for the Viet Cong to attack, he would instead attack the regiment as soon as possible. The plan. A hammer and anvil operation was planned. Companies I, K and L, 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines, would make an amphibious landing south of the Van Tuong village complex, while Companies E, G and H, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, would land by helicopter to the west in 3 landing zones. The two battalions would then drive the 1st VC Regiments east and northeast into the sea, while Company M, 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines, blocked escape to the north. Walt assigned the battalions to the operational control of the 7th Marines Command Group. The command group, led by Oscar F. Pete Petros, landed at Chu Lai on August 15th with the 1st Battalion. 2nd Battalion was at Kien Yan, while 3rd Battalion was assigned to 7th Fleet's Special Landing Force at Subic Bay in the Philippines. Petros requested the addition of 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines as a reserve, and the battalion would be available off the coast on August 18th. 2 batteries from 3rd Battalion, 12th Marines Artillery Group would move south from Chu Lai, and long-range artillery in Chu Lai would also deliver supporting fires. Air support would be provided by Marine Aircraft Groups 11 and 12 based at Chu Lai, 8 Army UH-1E helicopters based in Quang Ni, and 24 UH-34D Seahorse helicopters and Hueys from Marine Medium Helicopter Squadrons 261 and 361. 2 US Navy destroyers, the USS Orlek and the USS Pritchett, and a cruiser, the USS Galveston, would provide naval gunfire support. The blocking force. Company M33 landed less than a kilometre south of the mouth of the Cha Bom River at 1700 hours on August 17th, and that night the Marines secured a landing zone for the Hautor battery, arriving in the morning. Hautors were 107mm mortars mounted on the platform of the 75mm pack howitzer, creating a mortar with more firepower than the 81mm mortar, while still being light enough to be towed by vehicles or transported by helicopter. Company M would protect the Hautars while also acting as a blocking force with a series of platoon-sized patrols. Artillery moved south from Chu Lai. At 0500 on the 18th, Battery K began moving south from Chu Lai along Highway 1, emplacing near the junction of the highway and the north bank of the Cha Bom River. However, Captain George A. Baker, the fire direction officer, had not been given the frequencies for the 7th Marines, and because of these communication problems, the infantry relied on the Hautar battery for most of its support. Green Beach. Companies K and I, 3-3, landed on Green Beach at 0630 on August 18th. Company K secured the northern side of the village of Can Quang and Hill 22, then pivoted right and advanced north, while Company I secured the south of Can Quang, then moved west until it reached a stream bed 2 kilometers from the village. Company L, 3-3, landed at 0700 hours and moved inland on the right flank of Company K. By nightfall, Companies K and L had moved 2,000 meters inland, crossed Phase Line Alpha, and had established perimeter defences along Phase Line Banana. Company I, 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines. Company I was advancing west on the left of Company K. Reinforced with 3 tanks, the Marines moved left to help Company H, 2-4, secure Can Quang. Company I assaulted Can Quang across a stream bed against fierce resistance. The village was heavily wooded and fortified with covered trench lines, fighting holes, and interconnected tunnels. The Marines, with the tanks in support, suppressed fire from the opposite side of the stream bed and reached the outskirts of the village. The battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Muir, then ordered Company I north to regain contact with the left flank of Company K. Helicopter landings. At 0645, the companies of 2nd Battalion began landing on their assigned landing zones. Company G landed almost unopposed at LZ Red, but at LZ White, Company E, landing at 0730, received small arms and automatic weapons fire from a ridgeline to the northeast. After an airstrike, both companies began to advance to the northeast. Company G quickly secured Po Long, finding tunnels, trenches, and fighting holes cleverly concealed in hedgerows, and by mid-afternoon the Marines had moved 2 kilometers northeast of LZ Red, established positions along Phase Line Banana, and made contact with Company M, 3-3. Company E had secured the first ridge northeast of LZ White at around 1000 hours, then continued advancing northeast. At around 1200 hours, the Marines began receiving fire near a hamlet several hundred meters past the ridge. After clearing the hamlet, Company E consolidated, then continued its advance. Hotel Company. At 0745, Company H began landing at LZ Blue, inside the perimeter of the 60th Viet Cong Battalion. The landing zone was overlooked by Hill 43 to the southwest, and fire from the direction of Hill 43 increased with successive waves of helicopters. Achieving fire superiority, 1st Lieutenant Homer K. Jenkins, Company H commander, ordered 2nd Platoon to secure Hill 43, while he led 1st and 3rd Platoons towards Nam Yen. 2nd Platoon ran into a fortified position on Hill 43, and the attack stalled at the base of the hill. With 3rd Platoon providing a supporting base of fire, 1st Platoon moved to assault the village. But Nam Yen had also been fortified with spider holes and bunkers, and 3rd Company, 60th Viet Cong Battalion, unleashed a withering fire on the Marines. 1st Platoon gained a foothold in the village, but under intense pressure, Jenkins ordered them to withdraw and requested airstrikes on Nam Yen. Jenkins then concentrated his company on Hill 43. F-4B Phantoms from Mag 11 smothered the hill with bombs and napalm, and by 1000 hours, with tank and ONTOS support, the Marines had secured Hill 43. Company H then resumed their advance north and entered an area of rice paddies between Nam Yen and Can Quang. When 1st Platoon began receiving machine gun fire from Nam Yen and mortar rounds began falling on the 2 lead platoons, Jenkins called in artillery fire on Nam Yen and an airstrike on the high ground to the north. With Company H under fire in open ground, Lieutenant Colonel Fisher ordered Company H back towards LZ Blue, and by 1630 it was back at the landing zone. Company H had achieved none of its objectives, but it had inflicted significant damage on the Viet Cong defences, and the men of the company had earned 1 Medal of Honour, 2 Navy Crosses, 3 Silver Stars, and 1 Bronze Star. The Lost Convoy. with companies E and G 2-4 and companies K and L 3-3 closing on phase line Banana, and company I 3-3 moving north towards the phase line. Major Andrew Comer was ordered to resupply company I. The supply column, column 21, with 5 Amtracs from 1st Amphibious Tractor Battalion and 3 M67 flame tanks, then departed the battalion's logistics support area several hundred metres west of Can Quang. Vehicles kicking up clouds of dust, the Marines buttoned up inside them. The convoy probably passed Company I, and as the lead tank rounded a bend, mortar rounds landed on the column, and fire from 57mm recoilless rifles and rocket launchers raked the vehicles. The column was surrounded by an estimated 350 Viet Cong, and when the mortar fire lifted, the VC began charging the convoy. Within hours, 5 Marines had been killed and many more were wounded, but 1st Company 40th Viet Cong Battalion had suffered crippling losses. Company I was ordered back to the battalion command post to join a relief column led by Major Comer. Colonel Petros provided an M48, the only uncommitted tank remaining, to the relief. The relief column departed at 1300 hours, the M48, 2 Ontos and 4 Amtracs, with Company I riding on or in the vehicles. 400 metres from the start line, the lead M48 was struck, and under heavy mortar and small arms fire, the infantry dismounted. Leaving 1 platoon behind to secure the area and evacuate the wounded, Company I continued on foot. The Marines encountered more resistance approaching Can Quang, but fought through the hedgerows and trenches around the village, pushing into Can Quang and 600 to 800 metres beyond it. However, as darkness fell, the convoy had still not been found. Committing the reserve. By early afternoon, with a salient developing in the centre of the Marine line, Colonel Petros had decided it was time to commit part of his reserve from 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines. The SLF had arrived off the Tuong Peninsula at around 0930, and Petros ordered 3-7 to land by sea and helicopter. Company L 3-7 landed at 1543 and was ordered to support Company I 3-3 in the Can Quang Can Toi area in its search for column 21. Company L would be supported by a section of tanks and a tank retriever. Company L arrived just north of Can Quang at around 1845 and was immediately engaged in an intense firefight. The company then dispatched 2 patrols to find the column, 1 to the north and 1 to the west. The second saw burning Amtracs in the distance, but with Viet Cong still in the area, the Marines couldn't close with them. Company L was ordered to establish a perimeter along phase line Banana, left of Company K, and move north into the position after dark. Company H-24 and Company I-33 had been weakened and would soon be pulled out of the fight, but the Americans had replaced the 2 companies with a full battalion. Aftermath. The Viet Cong had expected an overland American attack from the north or west, and were surprised by the helicopter and amphibious assaults. RLT-7 had accomplished its objectives for the first day of Operation STARLITE. The Marines had established a cordon around elements of the 1st Viet Cong regiment, but the centre of the cordon was weak, allowing perhaps the bulk of the survivors of the regiment to slip away. By the time STARLITE ended, 600 Viet Cong would be dead at the cost of 51 Marines killed, and a Viet Cong stronghold had been captured.